Good afternoon, Eric the Racket Scientist here. Now, it's a Saturday night and I'm home alone because my wife is out of the house. Now, what better time to do some naughty things than when my wife is out of the house on a Saturday evening? Now, I have the perfect thing planned for this evening, which is to have some fun with someone else while she's gone. Now, some of you may know my wife's name is Jay, so it's only appropriate that if I'm spending time with another lady, that lady's name is iJ2. And the I stands for me, the J stands for Jay, and the 2 stands for this is a thing that I love, but it is still second to my wife. And the 2 also stands for the fact that I have 2 of them. And that's what we're gonna do today. Now, if you've seen my video on the rackets that I bought when traveling to Taiwan and to China, then you'll know that I bought these in Taiwan. Now, just to explain what these are Mizuno rackets. Mizuno is a Japanese company that produces a wide variety of products, kind of like if Li-Ning is the Nike of China, then Mizuno might be the Nike of Japan. They make badminton rackets. They make very good badminton rackets. The quality control and the attention to detail and the consistency on these rackets are very excellent. They are right up there with Yonex production rackets. All of the high-end Mizuno rackets are still manufactured in Japan. We can see there's like a JP code here. So, very excellent rackets. I have one of these. I have a black iJ2, and it's in one of my previous videos, and I do mention it in my collection video as well. Now, that was the first iteration of that racket to my knowledge, and that was a matte black. And in fact, I have that one here. So a lot of you may not have heard of this racket, even if you may know Mizuno models. Some of you may be familiar with the Fortius 10, Fortius 11, or Fortius 20 rackets, but this is another racket in the Fortius series that is evidently a Taiwan exclusive racket, meaning that this is only sold in Taiwan. Now, I found out about this racket online and I was curious about it, so I asked a friend to get it for me, which is why I have it. And, just to take a look at this, the design is actually pretty similar across the 2 colorways. The original one came in black, a matte black specifically, which is a color that I actually quite like. And there's another additional detail, which is there's actually a gradient, a color shifting gradient on the inside of the frame that shifts from green to purple, which is quite cool. So unfortunately, they've gotten rid of that. And the racket is now with a white base. Now, it doesn't have the same details like the color gradient in the inside of the frame, and it's matte black. Whereas the new one is gloss, which, if you had to ask me to choose between the 2, I probably prefer matte white, but honestly, I think it looks good. I mean, it doesn't have the gradient on the inside, but I will say the graphic that's printed on here is much, much clearer on the new generation. If we look at the old one, the graphic is kind of muddled and honestly, doesn't look super great. But on this one, it's very vibrant and it looks good. So we'll just call that a win and move on. Anyways, since we have 2 of these, let's go ahead and get started because this might take a while. And yeah, so I was excited to learn that there was another color of this racket. This is a racket that I picked up for the novelty reasons. I saw that it was, Taiwan exclusive, and I wanted to try it. And then once I got my hands on one, I realized, I like this racket. It's pretty good. I'm not sure if that I could ever make this my main racket simply by virtue of it not being readily available in North America. But I got 2 just because I want to use it more. I really, want to compare it to my main rackets, and I could see myself playing with this a lot. Now Mizuno claims that this is a head-heavy racket, and it says so right here. But I find that to not be true actually with my other iJ2. Well, one thing that we will find interesting here is that even though these are clearly related rackets and they look very similar and their shape is the same and everything, I just noticed that on the shaft, you know, the flex is the same. It says flex medium, which we'll take that with a grain of salt because Mizuno rackets tend to be on the stiff side. The medium feels usually like medium stiff, and the stiff rackets tend to feel quite stiff. But what's interesting is that even though these all look the same, the white one claims to be significantly more head heavy than the black one. And so we'll see if that remains true. I do know that this black one tends to be, it feels very even balance, which I like even balance rackets, so that's good. But, you know, a little bit of head weight is kind of interesting. Now, it being head heavy will bring it a little closer to the Axe Force 80. And the reason I'm comparing it to that racket and not other Mizuno rackets is because, well, all of the Fortius rackets have this box frame, but because of this T10 T-joint, this racket tends to be, at least the black one, tends to be very whippy and quite soft feeling. So I actually find that the Axe Force 80 is kind of an apt comparison because, again, box frame rackets currently not very common in the industry. And the Axe Force series is one of the few series that actually has one with the Axe Force 80. And then Fortius rackets are another example. But a lot of the Fortius rackets are quite demanding. I had several of the Fortius 11Q, and that is a great racket, but it is quite demanding. You need to have good technique, and it can be pretty powerful, but it is, I would not say that it's an easy to use racket. And so it's quite nice that this racket exists because it means that there is a relatively approachable and easier to use Fortius racket in case you really like the box frame, which I do again. You know, now we have the Acro Speed and Acro Force rackets, but you know, there's nothing quite like the feeling of a nice box frame. It's not everyone's cup of tea. I know nowadays the trend is very much towards fast attacking rackets, and even rackets from Yonex that are supposedly head-heavy attacking rackets, such as the 88D Pro, you know, are head-heavy, but not quite as head-heavy as you think. And they have power frames, but again, not as blocky and not as powerful as you may think. Okay, so some food for thought there. But here we have Mizuno with a box frame and a whippy head and T-joint. Gotta love the Japanese. Mizuno rackets are some of my favorite to do this ungripping process on, just because everything comes off so cleanly. I know it doesn't look like it here because this double-sided tape is kind of, you know, staying on here and being all fuzzy and stuff, but this double-sided tape comes off way easier than anything that Victor or Leaning puts on their racket handles. Mizuno and Victor are the easiest grips to do. That's interesting. Nothing makes me more happy than seeing a naked pair of twins in my lap. I say this in all my Mizuno racket videos, but one thing I like about Mizuno is they're very transparent about what T-joint they use in each racket. All of their modern rackets have the T-joint here. This says T10. There's a chart online on the Mizuno JP website that kind of shows each T-joint, but the grand scheme of things, the higher the number, the softer the T-joint is. So T10 is relatively high. T10, from my knowledge, is one of their softest T-joints. I know that they use T10 and in this racket, and they use T12 in some rackets, some of their mid-range rackets. So I think like their number 3 rackets, like Acrospeed 3, Acroforce 3, maybe even Fortius 30 maybe uses T12. I know the Acroforce 2 uses T12. But I'm curious to know what that T-joint feels like. I don't think I've used the racket with that T-joint, so I like to use that. I have a few rackets with the T9 T-joint. The Acrospeed 0, I believe, has a T9 joint. And then the Acrospeed 1 series, the drive and the focus, I think both have T8, where the Excel has T7. I'm not sure what the Fortius 11 has on it. Actually, that is one racket that actually just doesn't say. Oh man, I'm tired. Okay. Yeah, when I do pairs of rackets, instead of doing one all the way through, I like to do each step at a time on each racket. So as you saw, I did clean the grip, then I did the tape on each racket, and now I'm going to grip each racket. And that's just so between steps you can have a little more consistency, right? Like if I do the tape on this one and then I do everything else and I come back and I do the tape on this one, I think in my opinion, there's more likely to be more discrepancies between the taping. I mean, you're never going to get it perfect, but like there are situations where, you know, you might forget about the way you do something, and this is just to make sure that they're more consistent between the pairs. Do that. Okay. Good. I have these matching freebie pink grips. They're not super grap or anything, but might as well use them since I got them for free. And I have 2 of them that are the same color, so what's important is that they're consistent between rackets. There's a nice little gradient, so we got pink to white, so I think this will look good on the white racket. So let's give that a try. Very close. This is kind of a thick grip, but I think it's okay because this is a G6 handle, so a little bit on the thinner side. I don't think I will notice that much. Got it gripped kind of a little bit right above the cone. Let's see if we can hit the same target. All right, and finally got it. Good. I'm not sure if this sticky stuff is gonna hold. We're gonna see. If it doesn't hold, I'll have to put the stickers on, but I usually don't like doing that, so we'll see about that. But yeah, there it is, Mizuno iJ2. Thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video.